Now today in this session, I want to continue what I started the other day. I wanted to get these parts prepped. There's no way we're going to paint again today. I wanted to see how this finish would play out. I'm going to get most of this sanded out. What I did want to see is how these parts were made, and they really are made very nice, to be honest. Armor bodies, again, give them a plug. This looks like really nice stuff. Now, and as I sand each one of these parts, the objective is twofold: to get a nice smooth finish on this, and this has a really lot of primer on it, so I haven't gone through yet, in fact. Even using 400 sandpaper, I haven't gone through. But most of all, I want to radius every edge on here. Most important thing, to radius all the times you actually do the sanding, right up to the point that you put the colored paint on. And once you put the color on, you don't really want to sand it a lot, because you're going to wind up going through on the very edge of it. So that'll be the goal today. Once I have my coffee, get a little motivated here. I'm never really that motivated early in the morning, but we will get some of this done in this session. Now, I always want to give a plug to this product. This is Indasa Rhino Wet. This is 400 sandpaper. The reason is I've had, in my experience, many different kinds of sandpaper. But for doing the work that we do here in the shop, this has proven to be head and shoulders the best. And Mark actually was the one that got us a whole sleeve of this. And boy, we've made good use of it. Now, one of the things a lot of people think is when you're doing this kind of work that it just doesn't matter what kind of sandpaper you use. Well, that's not exactly true. And there's a lot of little things that go into making the job easier here. First off, any job like this, it's basically labor. It's hand labor. It's like mowing the grass. And if you have a lawnmower instead of a pair of toenail cutters, it just makes it easier. This is a tool that makes this job a lot easier. Now, what I'm suggesting too is, if you are not real fussy, one of the things you could do, of course, you take the part out of the box, wipe it down with some prep soil, and go paint it. And yeah, you could do that. There's no doubt about it. But it won't be as nice as we'd like to have it. Just a little bit nicer than that. Even though this is track bike bodywork, the track bike bodywork again is thinner. So we don't really want to build up, we don't want any Bondo at all on this, because once you do this, the Bondo cracks. So, and maybe that's the reason, because I'm trying to think through why they would have put so much primer on these parts. Maybe that's the reason. See, I'm not sure until this job is done just how this is all going to play out. Because doing the gel coat parts, if you don't do the rough sanding and scuff up that gel coat, it's like taking a one-way trip on the Titanic to I don't even know how funny it's not funny when you spend a lot of time and money to do something and then it doesn't work out the way you want. But the whole idea is, if you take the time right now, you spend an hour now, you're buying that insurance policy that it's like buying that battery booster. Somewhere down the road, you're not going to be God knows where, the bear is going to be chasing you or whatever, chasing Bob Navola off the mountain, and all of a sudden, my battery's dead. Well, same thing with this. I don't want to spend a lot of time and certainly a lot of effort and a lot of money in the case of $200 worth of paint there. And then the job is compromised because right around an edge it'll pop. And I assume any bike that's going to have trackday bodywork is going to go to the track at some point in time. And so what's the point? I mean, the point is, we'd like to have the nicest possible finish without the paint being very super thick like it might be on a bike you were just going to go to bike shows with and not ride. And most of all, we'd like it to have a nice finish when it's done. And this is just going to be, and I'm just going to try to condense it down into, a few minutes of video. Now, I already can see, and I think I see what I already want to see here. As I'm sanding through, I can see the substrate coming up through. So now I know this part has a lot less primer on it than the other piece. Now, I don't know what that means. See, I'm just doing my little investigative reporting here, but I'm not sure. Until I'm done with the job, I won't really know. Interesting, though. This is nice quality stuff. Alright, so we got 2 parts done already. That's really a good step. Now what I'm doing, and again I always try to put these tips on every video, even though some of them are redundant, is that I always start with the smallest part first, next biggest part, and graduate to the biggest part. Just the way old school painters like me do it. Now as a point of reference, this is the seat, and this is just information you may find interesting. When they make these parts, and I want to again say, these really look like nice quality parts. This material looks like a different material. This is herringbone, and it's half Kevlar and half carbon. We have this material in the house, what it looks like, and I'll show it in a minute. But this material, I don't know, and again, of course this is the first time I've dealt with it. It's very thin. It looks like it's really well made. That's the other part of this. And I need to at some point in time just sand through here and see if this is carbon, e-glass, or if it's this half Kevlar material. So this is just kind of an informative thing. This is my, what I call a scrap box. Not really scrap, we use it. This is Kevlar. Kevlar is usually yellow, all Kevlar. When Kevlar is half Kevlar and half carbon, this is what it looks like. You can pretty much tell that's what they're using there. But this is the kind of material they use, I think, to make those other parts look like they're made out of e-glass. And it could be that each part is a little bit different. I'm not sure. And this is just the stuff they use as filler when they do make a boat or so, whatever. This is e-glass. Just for people that might not know this, the white, what you would normally use with polyester resin. Normally Kevlar and carbon fiber you would use with epoxy. So it could be that these are epoxy, not polyester resin. Doesn't really matter in our case. I wanted to show that I don't have a sample. Oh, here we go. Just a little sample of some of the carbon where it's all carbon. And this is half Kevlar. So at least we know as I'm going through these parts, I want to learn a little bit more about them. And of course share it. And of course the main thing is to get a really nice, the nicest possible finish that's going to be practical for a track bike. Now you may be thinking, and you're probably right, that there's a lot of this stuff is really overkill. Like trying to figure out what material these parts are made out of. But I like to know, and I just have an inquiring mind when I'm doing a project for somebody. I like to know what I'm dealing with. Number one, so I can do the best possible job. And remember, it's these edges that are always the problem. And number two, all that information goes into my little, I don't know, database, I guess. So that in the future, when somebody says they want to have some armor bodies painted, well, we know what we're dealing with, some pretty nice stuff. And I got to tell Vlad, I'll tell him right to his face too, some of the stuff he's brought into the shop is it's not the highest quality stuff I've ever worked on. But this looks good, Vlad. And I hope he gets a tank off eBay, because I think we're fighting a dead animal there, trying to straighten out that tank. It's hit in the worst possible spot. And Triumphs are like that, by the way. The few Triumphs that I've worked on, they're always right at the point where that tank sticks out. And I think once you dent that, the Bondo there is almost guaranteed to crack. If you Bondo it, you really can't get in there and do it the way it should be done. And I even the other night, just to make sure I haven't missed the boat on anything, I looked at a bunch of videos on YouTube that showed they're going to put a glue gun and pull a dent. You're not pulling that dent out with a glue gun. On a fender, let me just show this. On a fender where you have a dent and it goes clunk, you put a toilet plunger and pull it out. Yeah. But when a dent is where you've crushed the material in, you're not pulling that out. Sorry, YouTube. That ain't happening, but anyway. And just for everybody's information, there are some really good videos. I saw somebody fix a fender. They were in a foreign country. I don't even know what country it was. Don't even know where they were, but they fixed a front fender. They drilled, it had a hole in it. They drilled a bunch of holes and put zip ties holding it together and then Bondoed over it. I had never thought of that. But Anyway, we got the next couple hours. We're going to do the sanding. We have to go get the baby today, of course. That's our other thing. And I do these things, you know, an hour or two here, an hour or two there, as I can. I got to run out to the garage every couple hours and change my battery charger and make sure the squirrels haven't eaten the motorcycles. But as long as I can get the point across of some of the things that I've learned, been doing this for over 50 years, and with some success and with some failure too. But if I can get the whole surface of everything to kind of look like that, Vlad will have one really nice paint job when this is done. Now, just one of those little informative things. What I realized after working on this part for a while, and I have it in my hand, this is a reinforced area. They reinforced it with this material. But the material right here is about 1/3 the thickness, and which it should be, by the way. So that's a Kevlar carbon reinforcement, and the part it looks like where I've sanded it through, it's white, it looks like e-glass. So that's really a well thought out thing. And what I always tell people, if you have the fairing apart and you haven't painted it yet, put all these little reinforcements in anyway. I remember when we did Najat's Ducati seat, he had a very similar thing where these holes were, I don't remember whether they cracked or they didn't line up, and we had to make a bracket. It was a real pain in the ass. I know we still have that video out on in our library, which now is pretty extensive, about 700 videos out there. So what I've learned so far is that these parts are not only nicely made, but it looks like, from the look of that, as I'm sanding through a corner and I pop through, it looks like maybe they are thin carbon. Maybe they are, I don't know. But again, if you look at how this part's sanded out, that really is some nice quality stuff. There's no doubt about that. Now, just to show you why we're not going to paint today, we're in the middle of a hailstorm. There's hail bouncing around out here. Look at this. I was all set to go out to the garage to change the battery charger, and in my backyard we could play hockey in it. Look at the hail bouncing off of the table. That's pretty cool. So you know, at least you know here, I'll do the rest of this session. I'll sand as many of those parts as possible, but it's definitely not going to paint anything today. Although I always would like to do a little test on some of the smaller parts, but see what the color looks like, but unfortunately not today. Now, whenever I come out here, and I come out 3 or 4 times a day, because I only have one battery tender, and I just go from bike to bike to bike. That seems to be the case. That gives me some exercise too, but boy, oh boy. It was not that long ago, and we were out riding, and we had that battery issue, and by the way, that battery's already been ordered. We'll do a little video changing the battery out. And Turbo Steve sent some good information regarding GS battery charging systems and stuff. So, but that's the beautiful thing of YouTube. You can share that information. Now, as we get to the bigger parts here, I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to get done today, because we basically, we always have a time window we're working around. But I'll try to get this part done anyway, save the bigger part for the next session, because I may have to make, and I want to show how to do it on video, I may have to make something to hold it together. Now, anybody that they painted this for the first time, they grab a part like this, and you know, it's vulnerable here. Wow. You don't want to... One thing you don't really want to do is put a stress on it. You don't want to start sanding it that way. So the choices are, I can lay it this way and do some of the sanding. I can lay it off the table edge. And I'm trying to picture so I can get the most of this done in one shot. But again, it's the most important thing are these edges. And because this is a trackday part, it's got the thing that contains the oil over the back of the bike if the engine were to fail in service, or you miss a shift, who knows what. Who knows what when you're one of these really good riders. Or if you're in Florida riding today while we're doing this. Anyway, or wherever, doesn't matter. Getting these parts, if I get this one done today, this will be probably the end of the session by the time I finish this. It's a lot of work, and I never like to rush it. Another key thing that I learned the hard way, of course, absolutely the hard way, is you never do this if you're rushing. If you're trying to rush through and you're trying to shave corners and cut corners, and at the end you're always looking at the part for the next 5 years, and sorry you didn't take your time. But I'm looking at the fairing, and as I'm looking at it, I'm planning the part ahead of this, and I'm thinking I got to make some kind of a little way of holding it, supporting it while I put it on the table or the tripod to paint. And that's always an issue with paint. It's like machine shop work. The hardest thing in machine shop work is how do you hold a part? Some odd shaped part you want to put in a lathe. Well, yeah. Anyway, I'll do the rest of this part off camera. This is going to be, that probably by the time I'm done with it, that'll be at least an hour, and that'll be the end of this session today. Now, as I'm finishing up this part, and again, it's just a lot of labor getting all these edges, getting everything nice and smooth, and of course, most important thing, waiting for a day we can paint. Now, I know somebody might be thinking, why don't you just mill the spray booth in your bathroom or something? Yeah, and you know you can, but Karen doesn't go for that stuff. So, actually, when my grandson gets a little bit older, we may modify the cellar to do such a thing. But for right now, we're going to war with the army we have. I got most of the parts except for the big one done today. That's going to be real nice. I guarantee that's going to be nice. I guarantee you can keep your doctor. So we worked our way up in the previous couple of sessions. We worked our way up to everything being done except the biggest part, and that's going to require probably a whole session. So, and again, I don't want to rush it. So, if you've enjoyed the video, thanks for watching. If you haven't enjoyed the video, thanks for watching. If you haven't kept your doctor, go find him. He's probably hiding. Anyway, again, thanks for watching.